So when you're involved in a car accident, what are the 5 things you must do? That's something that many people ask me, and you should know them. The first one will get you in big trouble if you don't do it. You need to call 911. Sometimes if you're in an accident, even if no one's injured, even if it's minor property damage, you should call 911 and have the police come out and document the accident, because even if it's just trying to resolve the damage to the vehicles, even if it seems obvious it's the other driver's fault, even if they swear to you up and down it was their fault and they apologize for the accident and buy you roses and do everything they can to tell you they know it was their fault, that's not good enough. Because stories change when people go home, and then they realize their rates may go up, and then they change their story when they talk to their insurance company. So it's very important you call 911 and let them document the accident, whether you're injured or not. Obviously, if someone's injured in an accident, you have a duty to call 911, and if you don't, you could be charged with a felony. You have a duty to aid and assist someone that's injured in an accident, especially if you caused it. Morally, of course, and then also legally, you have an obligation to render aid if you've caused an accident, and you certainly can't leave the scene without calling 911. So you want to write down critical information, because police officers have an option at the scene of an accident of either giving you a card with a case number or giving you an exchange of information form. Either one of those is not the final version. But what happens is if they don't give you an exchange of information form, where at a minimum you would have the name of the other driver, who their insurance company is, their policy number. Without that, and if all they give you is a card with a case number, you're going to have to wait 7 to 10 days for the police report to come out sometimes, depending upon how lazy or how slow the agency is that's writing the report, depending on where your accident occurred. And in all that time you're waiting, you may not have any knowledge of who the other driver's insurance company is. We want to start getting involved right away with the other driver's company so they can get the car out of storage, for example, and pay you for a rental car while you're waiting. If you don't get the information yourself at the scene, you run the risk of not getting any of that for at least 7 to 10 days. So offer the other driver to exchange insurance cards. Take a picture of their insurance card. Let them take a picture of yours. Take a photograph of the damage to their vehicle. Take a picture of their tag. If after 10 minutes of talking with them they decide they want to leave the scene of the accident, take a picture of them. Because I've had that happen before. By the client gathering information at the scene, I was able to prove who was driving the other vehicle, even if they tell their insurance company they were home sleeping and someone must have stolen their car. Well, that's difficult to argue when you've got a picture of them standing next to their car at the scene of the accident. So you never know when something like that might be helpful. So get that information. Ask them for their insurance card and take a picture of that. As much information as they're willing to give you. Diagram the accident, whether that means taking pictures of the intersection or just drawing it out in your head, unless it's something straightforward like a rear-end collision. But even so, just make a note of all the streets around you. Do a little diagram just to make sure that when the police report comes and you look at it, it matches up with what you recall in terms of where the streets are and which road the other driver was on, who had a light, who had a stop sign. If someone was pulling out of a shopping center, write down the name of the shopping center so that you remember where they were pulling out when the accident happened. Don't discuss the accident with anyone other than the police officer at the scene. And if you could avoid it, don't talk to the police officer in front of the other people. I know that sounds silly, but there's an accident report privilege. So nobody can use what you say at the scene against you in the future. It'd be better if the other drivers and the other folks that were involved in the accident weren't listening to you give your statement to the officer. Usually they separate you, but don't take blame for the accident. If it's your fault, just give the officer the information they request, but certainly you don't have an obligation to tell the other driver what your conclusion is as to it being your fault or why, because you might be wrong. And guess what? It might be partially your fault, but it also might be partially the other driver's fault. And in Florida, a good lawyer will be able to help you get a recovery, even if it's partially your fault. So to avoid that, you don't have to admit fault at the scene. And most importantly, before you start dealing with insurance adjusters and calling and giving statements, get a lawyer involved. It doesn't have to be me. I'd suggest that you should hire me, but if it's not, just get a lawyer on your side before you give a statement to the other driver's insurance company. Because the one thing I can guarantee you, they're not taking a statement from you out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing it to obtain any information you give them that could hurt your case. So be aware of that, and those are the steps that you should take immediately after an accident. Thank you, and if you see some value here, click the like button. And if you want to learn more about my practice and the other areas of law I handle, you could subscribe to my channel. Or you can call me anytime at 877-GLUCK-LAW. Thank you and have a great day.